Okay. Good evening, everyone. Chuck Murdler,
Yep, present.
Marty Wolpoff,
Present.
Rosemary Ginty,
Present.
Dan Paternak,
Present.
Sylvia Alexander,
Present.
Bob Bender,
Here.
Paul Ellis,
Present.
David Gelman, Tracy Pardo, Julie Reyes,
Present.
Camelia Tepulis,
Present.
Omar Murray, and Nick Fazio.
You have a quorum?
Okay, we have a quorum, and David is just coming in from the waiting room.
Okay. I would like to do, with your permission, something a little different with the first item on the agenda. It has been on the agenda twice previously. It is the Orloff Avenue BSA. And a suggestion was made by somebody who is extremely knowledgeable, not me, that there may be people here who have problems with the Orloff application, but are not opposed to it per se. So what I would like to do is two things. I'd like to get a sense of what concerns people have, and if there are such concerns, and then take a vote or get the sense of the meeting on a different aspect, namely the possibility of conditional approval if a majority of you really do favor having this in principle, a conditional approval subject to the conditions that are causing you a problem being met. Now, I'm not sure that I'm right in the statement that a majority of you are disposed favorably to this application. Let me tell you, I have two problems that are three really. One, I don't understand why this was turned into a glorified railroad flat rather than two separate buildings, which could have been done. When the people bought this, that was obvious. They didn't need that garage, and I'll bet you that garage ain't going to be a garage very long. The second part of that is I have a real problem. I'll guarantee you within hours, indeed before anything else happens, the basement will become a basement flat and it'll become an illegal multiple dwelling. Now, I understand that people do not want to go after people who have moved into one of those already or are already committed to that course of conduct, though illegal. But it does seem to me that when you know this is going to be an illegal multiple dwelling, that gives me a problem. So I'd like to get your sentiment from those who have a view concerning this item, please. Anybody? Dan.
Hey, Chuck, I think one of the biggest problems I have is just the amount of that brick wall or the size of that brick wall running on Orloff Avenue, and to see if the applicant can break it up at all, whether it's by moving entrances over there or doing something else design-wise to break up just that big wall, just because I think it does take away from a lot of the other single-family houses in the area. That would be my concern on the project.
Do you have a view as to whether you would approve it on condition that that be done? Well, that will really kill the plan, though.
If we could approve on condition that they break it up somehow, figure out, and again, it's a design issue. And I have confidence in architects these days that they could figure out a design to accommodate the developer where they can still construct the two-family house that they want and break it up just a little bit to conform a little bit to the single-family houses that are in that area.
Okay. Kristen.
Hey, Chuck. Long time
Hey,
no
how are
see.
you? It's
I'm
been a
good.
while.
Been a while. I guess apologies. I'm sure this has already been addressed, but can someone just give like a very high level overview of exactly what kind of variance is being requested here? Like what is
If you
being
go
asked?
through the variance book and you check every one that is sought, you'll have done the job. There are very few variances available that are not being sought here.
So there's a lot that because it's a tiny little lot. So within the zoning, they're not allowed to do much is basically what you're saying.
No, it's a very narrow lot on top of the size.
So are they
So-
required to have so they're required to only develop a certain percentage of the lot, I guess, is basically, that's what I'm trying to.
No. What the problem that they have here is that the lot is very narrow. And as a result, they have to build, if they're going to occupy the entire lot or get maximum value out of it, they're going to have to do a very comparatively thin thing. When they first came here, it was with an application to have no hallway. In order to get to bedroom number 2, you had to go through bedroom number 1, a typical railroad flat construction. We have the great expert on all of those housing issues, Mr. Weissman's with us now. Good evening, Ted. It was a typical railroad flat. We raised hell and they have pulled off and have put in a very narrow hallway running across the length of it. It is still the same thing, except you've got the minimum amount, legally permissible amount of a hallway running the length of it. You have a area in the backyard where they're going to park 1 car. And then along the side, there's a supposed, they claim, garage for the 2nd car. That doesn't really make a heck of a lot of sense. You could have broken this up into 2 small 1-family homes. Or as Dan says, done something to relieve the monotony from the standpoint of the character of the neighborhood of a solid brick wall. And the third problem was they have a staircase going out from the basement directly out to the street. Now, you know, and I know that's going to be an apartment rented as an apartment day 1. Rosemary, you're any more, Kristen? I'm sorry. You're on, Rosemary.
Can I ask Kira? Kira, can you pull up the material that the Board of Standards and Appeals material? I really, this is the 3rd time this has been here, and it is next to impossible for me to explain what my issue is, as simple as it may be, without a picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Can you do that, Kira? Whoop. She's muted. Kira?
Shira, come out.
I'm here. I'm here.
Can you pull up?
I'm pulling it up now. Yeah, I'm
Thank
working
you.
on it.
Go
Give
to
me a
number.
moment.
Go to number 16, please.
All right, it should be coming up.
Okay, now go to the 7th drawing. That's the first drawing. Go to drawing number 7.
Okay.
There you go. That's it. That's it. That's my problem. Okay, this lot, this building, what you're looking at here is 70 feet long. That's a 70-foot undifferentiated plain vanilla wall. Kristen was asking, what is the variance you're looking at here is the lot is so narrow, they're not able to put in a side yard. Now that you're looking at Orloff Avenue, if you're on Orloff, this is what you're going to be looking at. And there is 0 yard. They're required to have 10 foot, it is 0. So this 70-foot wall is right smack in your face on Orloff, right up to the sidewalk. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with looking at this. It looks like a chicken farm, to tell you the truth. I then looked at, and it's in the application, you all saw it, there are different maps, there are Bromley maps and what have you. And when you look at the single family homes in this neighborhood, they are on lots. So for instance, on Cannon, the lots are 27 feet, 25 feet, 25, 22 feet, 24 feet. That's the size of the lot. The house is smaller than that, okay? So the houses are 20 feet, 21 feet. This is 70 feet with no imagination whatsoever. And that is my problem. There's no relief, there's no variation, and we shouldn't be designing their building. But when I look at something, there's something wrong with 70-foot brick wall in this neighborhood. So I will stop. And I would like to see that as a condition. I would like to see a condition that the Board of Standards and Appeals looks at this and says, you have to do something with that facade. It is massive, it is undifferentiated, it is not respectful to the single family homes that are in that neighborhood. When you walk those streets, it's a pleasure to walk those streets. You got yards and doors and it's nice small houses. This does not fit the character of the single family home neighborhood that this is being built in. I think that's all I have to say. Kira, thank you for pulling this up.
Thank you for your patience. Okay. It takes me a second sometimes to upload it, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Chuck, to answer your question, I am in favor of residential use here. I'm in favor of the low density. My single problem is with that massive 70-foot wall with no imagination whatsoever in this, in an area where there are apartment buildings, but you can't compare this building with an apartment building. You have to compare this building with the single family homes in that neighborhood. Right. And it doesn't blend with them. It doesn't go along. Thank you. I will stop. Thank you.
Bob Bender.
Thank you, Chuck. Let me start by saying where I'm coming from. I'm prepared to vote in favor of this building right now without preconditions, but depending on what the conditions are, I'm certainly open to to considering them and voting. There are some very nice 1 and 2 family homes in the area. There are also a lot of high-rise apartment buildings in the area. I've walked that area. I know that area. And as far as the conditions and the question of compatibility, I think depending on your point of view, you can interpret it almost any way you want. But it's certainly not incompatible with the high-rise apartment buildings that are in the area. We did see drawings of one other building that has a large brick facade, which is recessed in the middle. And, I guess we're becoming the aesthetic police. If some people think that looks better than having a lot of windows on the side of the building, so be it. But, that's not to my taste. But again, I don't know that we're the aesthetic police in the first place. With regard to whether the basement will become a third dwelling unit, that would put this building pretty much in line with every other 2-family building that I'm aware of in North Riverdale. I can't speak for Kingsbridge Heights, but I can tell you on my own block, there are two 2-family buildings, all of which have 3 dwelling units, 3 mailboxes, 3 gas meters, 3 doors. And the buildings department says, well, we can't get entry to the building. So, we can't really tell what's going on there. But, I hope it doesn't happen. The CFO doesn't allow it to be a 3-unit dwelling. We'll have to see what happens when it's actually built. Let me just make one more point, Chuck. If we were overruled on the Marble Hill unit, which I felt, we were on strong grounds to object to it even after it was altered. But on this building, the developer has come back to us twice and he has made some changes to it. I don't think the drawing we just saw was actually the final version of that facade. But be that as it may, he has come back. He's been cooperative. He's tried to meet our objections. But if we were overruled in Marble Hill, I don't have the slightest doubt we're going to be overruled by the BSA on this one if we vote against it. And, I can't speak for my colleagues, but this is not the hill I'm prepared to die on. So, as I say, I'm prepared to vote for it without conditions. Depending on what the conditions are, I might still be willing to vote for it. And thank you for giving me the time.
Let me just tell you what the significance is, and particularly that those who are not familiar with the building code. The building department is not acting properly. During the period of time that I served as Commissioner of Buildings, we went after these, and there's a reason for them. And the excuse I couldn't get access is nonsense. It is maybe they should have done what I asked 60 years ago, put them all in green uniforms with no pockets, and then you'd have access all of a sudden. But the answer here is, and the problem is the following. A multiple dwelling has different fire code and building code regulations than a non-multiple. And if you have people living, especially in a basement area, where you do not have the fire protection that you would have if it were a multiple dwelling, you increase the risk of fires and death, which is exactly what was happening at that time. We went after them. This area was one of the areas that were in the loop. I had occasion just a few weeks ago to just look at something, and there it was. We nailed a ton of places. We gave the people a year to fix it or do something because we weren't out to hurt them. But what was happening was really bad. And if you will check, the basement apartments were where people in Hurricane Ida and some of the other like storms were killed recently. So you have a serious hazard. It's not a matter of it isn't nice. It isn't a matter of appearance. It's a matter of safety. It really is an important consideration, especially when it's as close as this one is to the building next door. But Ms. Tepelis?
Yes, thank you. Just to say that I hear you loud and clear on the matter of fire safety, but they did come back to us very clearly explaining that that's a requirement to have another exit at the basement. I think Bob Bender's, I fully endorse, and I could have stated Bob Bender's position 100%. I mean, they really try to work with us. They came to us twice with revised designs. We are not the sort of aesthetics police here to say that a brick wall is uglier than it would have been gray concrete or also 2 stories high, wall of the same length. I see no reasons to stand against this. I mean, again, it's overwhelming the number of variances they are seeking, but we knew that this was going to happen no matter what, given the sort of the geographic situation of the lot itself. I have nothing that I can raise against them. And just as a personal plea, if I may, Chair, in the way we phrase things, we cannot presume people guilty before innocent. I mean, we cannot say, I know this will be an illegal apartment. Maybe that is the case on a statistical basis, but I find this to be a little bit sort of aggressive in the way of expressing to say, I accuse you because I know better. I mean, we presume innocent before guilty and let the DOB enforce what they have to enforce. So I'm aligning with Bob Bender's position at this moment. I would approve this. I would also be willing to absolutely approve any conditions any other members are raising to this.
Anyone else? All right. Can I, and this is not a recordable vote, please. I just want to get a sense of the meeting. Would those who want it done on condition as contrasted with a vote that's just up and down, that's only the board members, please raise your hand.
What are the conditions?
Oh, you're absolutely right, Bob. As far as I'm concerned, you can strip away all but the safety as far as I'm concerned. I am concerned about the basement for the reasons I've told you. Yes, there are apartments all over the area. That doesn't make it right. The first person that dies, I'm going to come see you. Okay? That's not appropriate for me to have said that. That's one. The other condition that was mentioned was Rosemary's about the solid brick wall. And the third condition that was mentioned in both of the prior meetings was the garage, which just didn't make any sense there as a garage. Am I correct? Is that the view? Is there anybody who feels, I don't remember who raised the garage issue, so is that anybody here who has a problem with the garage? Okay, so we can drop that. So you're down.
I had a, I'm sorry, Chuck. I had a problem with the garage. Again, I can't figure out what the purpose is.
I think you'll find
this is Mr. Chair. If I could just jump in, the garage was raised, and Kira, you received notification. I think it's in the notification that went to everybody that it is the applicant's position that the garage is there because there is a section of the zoning resolution that will grant an additional 300 square feet of residential floor area to their residential building if they build an enclosed garage. I looked it up. I was astonished to see it in the zoning resolution. It is there. It's not considered a bonus. It's in there for other reasons, which I won't go into. But this is the problem that I have with that excuse about the garage. If you look at their zoning analysis, it's not ours, it's theirs, that they are presenting to the Board of Standards and Appeals. The permitted floor area ratio is 1.02. The proposed floor area ratio is 0.87. They are 15% below what they're allowed to build. They don't need the 300 square feet of extra floor area from the garage. So that is a red herring of an issue to say we need the garage for the 300 square feet. And I'm really not happy that that was given to us as an issue. Look at the floor area, look at what's permitted, look at what's proposed. They do not need that 300 square feet. So the garage was raised for a number of reasons, but Kira, am I correct? They wrote and I don't want to say excuse, but the explanation they give for the garage is that they got 300 square feet extra residential floor area. And that's just, it's again, a red herring of an issue, a red herring of an issue. Okay.
Yes, and I did send that email out to the committee today.
You did, yeah.
Needs it again, please let me know. Thank you.
Julie?
No, thank you for sending it, Kira. Thank you.
Julie?
Yes, thanks, Chuck. I just had a question going back to the cellar. I hear your objections, but my question is, they are going to have 2 exits from the cellar. Is that correct? Or is that a condition?
As far as I know, there was mention of it. I haven't seen it on the plans, but there was mention that they would have an interior entrance, stairs, which just adds, why do you need it going out to the street? Answer, so do you see?
Well, the email that I read in regards to the cellar, it stated that they will have 2 exits from the cellar.
You have to have that when you have people.
Right. So my question to you is, what is your objection with the? I thought you had an objection with the cellar.
No, the problem with the problem with the basement is it makes it a multiple dwelling. When it is a multiple dwelling, there are requirements up and down the aisle in terms of how the building.
I got that.
And they're not going to be compliant. There are issues with respect to the walls and the light. Can I go on to the next one, Julie?
Yeah, but I know that there are one-family houses with basements.
Oh, sure. But the problem, look, let me state it to you.
I'm trying to understand your objection so I can.
I will make you a wager that there are a significant percentage of the one-family houses in North Riverdale, for example, are
in the Bronx. 90%. I know that.
Okay, but they're different in different areas. But my point is that here we know what's going to be going in, and we're turning a blind eye to it. That's all. Nick Fascio.
Yeah, no, thanks again. I just wanted to reiterate. I was multitasking, and but I appreciate. I too. I looked up. I saw the email regarding the garage and what the citation of the zoning resolution. And again, I just, as much as I have researched this, I still can't figure out why that was a deal breaker, because Mr. Dale indicated that there was no way that he was going to negotiate on the garage. And again, I just don't see why he's making such a big deal about that. And I do think, although I don't love the design, I agree with Bob that we aren't the aesthetic police, but I think that eliminating that garage would create more open space. And even though it wouldn't break up the housing per se, it would still cut down on sort of that brick moving on the left-hand side if you're driving south or walking south. So,
David Gilman.
Yes, I'm trying to understand this garage issue as well, because if the developer thinks that, you know, like many other Bronx sites, any renter would like to have off-street parking in the garage, I sort of understand that. You know, I understand the hesitation about the illogic of getting additional under the FAR, but whatever it is they're trying to do for whatever reason, the garage itself actually, as Nick was sort of alluding to, is that the garage is actually more proportional, independent, and looking more like the house adjacent to the, I guess, the right. And I would think the neighbors would prefer that there'd be, you know, fewer cars competing for street spots. You know, and what it is right now, and probably has been for, looks like generations, is empty and ugly. So, just a few thoughts.
It's mine out.
Hello?
Chuck, you're muted.
That you ever happened to you, that I was muted. David, anything else?
Actually, yeah. What are the extras they're trying to achieve by way of variance? Because the variance is what gives us a degree of leverage.
They don't have a front yard. They don't have requisite side yard on one side because it's a corner house. They have a bunch of others that I can't remember offhand, but it was a fair statement when I said you name it, and they've probably got it.
That they're requesting for variances that they don't need a front yard, they don't need this, they don't need that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Because they can't meet them, they can't comply with it. Sylvia, is your hand up?
No.
Okay. Is there anybody else? No. All right. Now, so would you give me a feeling that are on the table, and we would, if you want to go with conditions, we'll go with them one by one. Otherwise,
Chuck, I do see a hand up. There is a hand up from one of the neighbors, I think Rena Dawson.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Hard to see in the background.
Where are you?
Probably your upper left.
That's funny. I do not see her.
Rena?
All right. Ms. Dawson, do you have your hand up?
She's not muted, but we can't.
Hello, Ms. Dawson, are you there? I think we're going to have to go by that. All right. Would you folks who are board members please indicate to me, this is not a recordable vote, but just so we have, make this short and sweet, conditional or straight up and down. Those who would like to have it conditional, will you please raise your hand, and then we'll vote separately on the 3 conditions, Bob. I think that'll enable you to. All right. All those who would like to have it unconditional. Do we have, am I alone? Okay, I guess I am.
Oh, Chuck, we have hands up. Rosemary, David, Dan, Sylvia, Camelia, Paul, Marty, Bob, Bender.
Is that?
I'm sorry, is this conditional or unconditional? I'm not sure. Conditional. Count me.
Okay.
And Julie Reyes.
All right. So is that a, let me have the hands for the unconditional, please. That's a straight up and down.
Okay, let them get lower their hand. I saw Sylvia's hand up. Sylvia, was that for?
No, it's down.
Okay. Are there any hands for unconditional?
How many?
I don't see any.
Okay. I have to ask all of you to please forgive me. I'm a little punchy. I just got off a plane that's been traveling for the last 12 hours. So I'm a little tired. All right, now the 3 conditions. And if we can quickly do the hands, yes, I want it as a condition. No, I don't. First one is yes, the basement.
Can you be explicit, Chuck?
Yes, to require that they remove the exit to the basement that goes to the street so it cannot readily be used as a 3 apartment facility, a multiple dwelling. Look, if there weren't a basement apartment, you'd have to go, I mean, if there weren't staircase that goes right out to the street, you would have to go through the building and through a good chunk of somebody's apartment in order to get downstairs. That would not make it a very saleable illegal 3. And my view is I can't see my way clear to supporting just giving a blind eye to what I know is going to be an illegal 3.
Chuck, my recollection is that the presenter said that he was required to have an exit outside. Do you know about that?
That's not true. That's just not true.
All right, well, on the assumption that it's not true, I would vote for it, but that's the assumption.
Bob, I can assure you it's not.
Okay.
So Chuck, is it possible to put in there assuming that it's not required under the building or fire
Yeah,
code?
I'll change it. Assuming it is not required under the building code, I'll put that in. That's a good point. Well stated.
Done.
Okay.
But how is he going to build his meth lab?
Okay. All right. Do I have a majority on that or do I not? Are there enough people along for that one?
Chuck, I just have a question in regards to the basement. Are there windows in basements or?
Yes,
I'm
if
sorry,
you looked
I
at what
didn't
she
look at the
had,
plan.
if you looked at the picture that Rosemary had up, I saw at least 2 or 3 on that side alone.
Okay. Okay, so then I'm good with the conditions.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
The second condition is the solid brick wall as it impacts the requirement under 7221 of the zoning resolution that says it may not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. So hands up for those who want that as a condition.
Well, just as a clarification, it's not a solid brick wall. It has windows.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about some degree of
I'll phrase the
verticality.
language carefully if it's done, but it may not get done. So let's see, those who are in favor of that as a condition, please, would you raise your hands?
And that it's, and the condition being that the developer would work, you know, to
Would
work on the
unless
design.
Work on a design to provide some relief from undifferentiated wall space effect.
70-foot long wall, yes, with no yard, with 0 yard, yep. Mhm.
All he needs to do is put in some verticality every 20 or 30 feet.
Sure.
Well, this is like, just to see it, Bob Bender said we're not the design police. Indeed, we're not, but we do care about community character. I think it should be worded that the Board of Standards and Appeals should take into consideration. Let them figure out the design. We're presenting the issue. We're presenting the problem, not the solution. We're presenting the problem for the community. That's my view of it.
I'll draft the language tomorrow and I'll run it by you. And Bob, if you want to see it, I'm happy to run it by you or anybody else. So
I'm not a board member, but I do just want to remind everyone that this is a National Historic District neighborhood that we have fought pretty hard to preserve the character of this neighborhood. So I don't know if that's at all relevant in the language here, but we worked really hard on that and we do really care about the aesthetics.
All right, can we get those who would like to have this as a condition, the brick wall, please raise your hands now. Kira?
Yep.
Have you got a count?
Yep. Marty, Dan, Rosemary, Sylvia, David, Paul, Julie.
And presumably Chuck.
7 and Chuck, so 8.
Okay. The third, that one passes, right?
Yeah.
And I think what I'll do is I'll draft the language and send it around to the entire group that was here tonight so that nobody thinks I missed anything, and I'll take whatever changes you want, all right?
And Chuck, just a reminder, friendly reminder, tomorrow is the board meeting. So we will need that resolution.
When is it, when's the board meeting?
Tomorrow night at 7.
I'm not sure I can say, I know I don't have the gas to work on it tonight.
Okay.
I'll do
Understood.
the best I can. Garage. Should we do the hands again? Those who want the garage out.
Could you specify the condition, please?
The condition is that they replace the garage.
With?
Nothing. You don't need the question is whether the garage is needed there. One of the issues was, is this going to stay a garage?
Chuck, we have 4 hands up for that.
Okay.
Oops, wait a minute. No.
Or 3 rather.
Okay. So there are 2 conditions, stairs and solid brick wall. Okay. I will try and get something to you tomorrow before lunch, but I can't promise, okay? Now, let me move on. Okay. Let me move on to something before we go to the 50th precinct. There are, during the time I was away, 2 bills or 2 measures that I have not read either of them yet. but both of them fall squarely in the bailiwick of this committee. One is Governor Hochul has apparently proposed a bill that would have some negative impact on single-family homes. If it is anything like the press account of it that I read, the blurb from the New York Times while I was abroad, that raises a question in my mind as to whether or not it's good. What I would like to do is appoint a committee to go over both of those bills and report at the next Land Use Committee meeting. And let me tell you that the handcuff volunteer on that one is Rosemary, of course. It'll be Rosemary, Julie, and myself. Is there anyone who has a background in either housing or in building code? Okay, so that's that committee. The second committee is, I promised that we would appoint 3 people to serve as a committee, to serve as an interface between the community board and STAG on Riverdale Avenue. And I am going to do just that now. I've asked Marty to be the handcuff chair of that committee. David Gelman and Julie Reyes. Oh, whoop. Let me back up. I just screwed up. That's why I'm so tired. The Hochul and the other bill is David Gelman, Julie Reyes, and Marty Wolpoff. This committee is Mr. Gotthell, who lives next door with an apartment right there. So he's been watching and monitoring it anyway. David Gelman and Marty Wolpoff, okay? If there's anybody who would like to work with them, fine. The chair of the board and the chair of the committee will be available to work with the committee as well, ex officio or whatever.
Are these in fact committees or working groups?
The subcommittee, working group, whatever you want, David. It's people who are going to watch this. This is going to be a project for the next year. As they go through it, it'll get worse. Wait till you get the calls about it. They're working all night. All right?
No, I'm fine. I just thought there were a lot more rules about putting together a committee or a subcommittee versus just a working task. It's a working
group. It's a working group. The only reason I hedged on it is one member, David, is not a member of the board, Scott Help. And that's why I was hedging on what it was going to be called.
It hasn't stopped other chairs. I'll suffice it to say.
Whatever. Where am I? Now, the next item on the agenda is Public Design Commissions for the 50th Precinct, a request for a letter of no objection to a proposed change in the 5.0 exterior work, modifying the asphalt with ADA requirements and replacing the existing door. Is there anybody who has any problem with that? Is there somebody here from the 5.0 or from?
Chuck, their representative is here, Kim Wood, and she's sharing her screen now to give you guys a brief presentation on the proposal.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Kiara. And thank you everyone for having us on your agenda. I'm Kim Wood, I'm with Space Smith and Architecture Office. Kiara, the district manager, of course, you know, she invited us to attend this land use meeting so we could share the proposed work that we're looking to do at the NYPD 50th Precinct. We're part of the design team that was tasked by the NYPD to take the necessary steps to bring the precinct up to some ADA code requirements for accessibility. So the piece that we want to put in front of you today, it's the exterior work to modify the accessible route to the entrance that is accessible. We had an ADA surveyor that went through and noted anything that was not compliant, and we are going through and diligently upgrading it. One of those items is, and I think I can better demonstrate it by possibly flipping through some of these pages. This pathway here brings you to the side door. I'm happy to go back on any of these images to make this easier, but just to explain, you would go along this path until you come to this door. What the report noted is that the slope from this door to that, the beginning pictures that I had from the roadside, it didn't meet the slope compliancy. We also have a grate that is not ADA compliant. You could have a walker or your wheelchair or cane or whatnot could get stuck in the hole. So there's some ADA compliant grates that we can look at. And then in addition, these doors, hopefully you can see my cursor, these doors into the entrance. There is a code requirement that asks for the bottom panel of the door to actually be 10 inches of a finished smooth surface, and these are 8 inches. So what we're looking for is really just to tidy up the asphalt to meet the slope requirement. We're looking to replace the grate with an ADA compliant grate and to replace the doors with one that will meet the code requirement. I can switch back to some of these plans that show it more specifically, but I'd like to show you the rendering that gives you a pretty clear idea of what it'll look like. And it's not that different from today. Surely we haven't showed all the cop cars that live there, but in general, you would have this path. This is where they would be able to come through and then access here. All of the decisions are really replacing in kind. We're not trying to reinvent anything. We're trying to make it accessible.
Is that a grate there? Can you go back one picture?
Yeah, of course.
Right here, yeah. Is that a grate?
Yeah, so there is a grate there. That's not a pathway, so we're not worried about that, but there's actually some equipment that lives below ground there. And
on the side of the building.
Yes, correct.
Right here, right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, here?
Yeah.
Yes, there is a grate there.
Is that essential? The reason I'm asking is you were right about the walker and you were right about the wheelchair getting stuck. Somebody with the walker ain't gonna make it. I've become somewhat expert in that area.
So I can show you, I paused my share for a second. So this is Google Maps, of course, you know, we're very technical here. Yeah, you can see the grate that exists here, and it certainly is along the path. So just looking at ADA grates that are built to be compliant, I don't have anything drawn in so specifically, but just to demonstrate what we would be looking at. Of course, all of the openings, they're within, you know, certain margins to ensure that though there is the airflow that's required for the equipment below it, but there isn't, you know, the concern about the open grates that we see throughout New York City, of course. It's not nearly as much of a trap for wheelchairs, canes, etc. So this would be the sort of thing that we would recommend to replace that with.
Anyone?
Really quickly, I can show you, we've drafted up this letter of no objection. It's actually been addressed to Kiara. I'm not sure if that's not correct, but it's stating basically what I've laid out today and what Kiara added in the agenda. And again, our request is for a letter of no objection. What we would do is take that letter, and the next step that we have to do to be approved for this work before getting building permits is we would go to the Public Design Commission. So this is the first step of several.
Would you do this for me, please?
Mm-hmm.
You amend that letter on the screen now to have a reference to the fact that those grates that will remain will be ones that do not trap wheelchairs, walkers, and the like.
Sure.
All right. And if you will get that, then the question is, oh, I have others. Dan.
Yes, Ms. Wood, just 2 quick questions. There seems to be, that's a sidewalk there on the side, right? On the Kingsbridge Avenue side. Like it appears and like there's a lot of space there, but I think the realistic photograph is really, that's a sidewalk and the cars are really just kind of backed up on the sidewalk.
Yes. Yes, this is the case of where possibly the NYPD has taken some advantage of their ability to park where they want.
On the Kingsbridge side. And my second question, just so I know, are folks, and I don't believe they are, but if you can just kind of confirm, cars vehicles are not allowed to bring folks up to that entrance, correct?
I don't know about their exact policy for drop-offs. This is not a thoroughfare. You know, again, I'm going to pull up Google Maps. It's their parking area.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this is, you know, it does cut through to Broadway, but it's not a public way.
Correct. So I guess my question is, if somebody is hopping out in a walker or a wheelchair, they're going to have to just, I guess, walk down that area to the back door, right?
Oh, I follow what you're saying. Yes, yeah, it would be preferable that they be dropped off over here, I guess, in that case. That is an interesting point.
So right now, we don't know what they're doing? They're just sort of getting dropped off anywhere?
So I don't know where they use for the drop off. What I can say is the main entrance is over here.
Yep.
And so if they did drop them off here, they would have to come around to this entrance.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if somebody who needs a walker or needs a wheelchair comes to the 50th precinct, I'm guessing that they're not walking down that alley up front.
No, I would think that you would drop them off here and they would come up. But I mean, I do understand your point. However, you know, as I'm sure you know, with the ramp requirements for slopes, it wouldn't be able to, you know, it's not going to be right next to the door. It's not a huge change in elevation. I think it was like 6.5 inches of difference, give or take, that we were looking to achieve. And so, you know, that ends up being panned over, you know, 6.5 feet or whatnot for 1 to 12, right? So I think we had it, since it was already feathered from, you know, give or take this point, we continued the feathering of it. I shouldn't say that the slope starts at the edge of this building. Hopefully you can see my cursor. I can confirm that. I do think it starts closer to this grate.
And no possibility for a ramp in the front of the building, right?
That wasn't a discussion that
at all
we're in the position to have. So I don't have an answer for that. Only that these were the directions we were tasked with.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wood. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
David.
Sorry about that. Thank you. This is not a political statement of defund or anything like that, but can we knock down the building and start all over? It is the ugliest precinct within the 5 boroughs. When you look at the 40th precinct, the 44th precinct, the old One Police Plaza, and the original 1st precinct, some of the nicest architecture in all of the city of New York. And we have got easily the ugliest precinct house in the 5 boroughs. I'd love to see it knocked down and you know, an architect apply to it. And you know what? Create some parking underneath, because all the parking for blocks around is taken up by patrol cars, vans, and personal commuter vehicles. That aside, that's a political argument, another argument for another day. Sort of following on with what Dan was talking about. So the main entrance is at 236th Street and Kingsbridge. So what you're really talking about is providing ADA access for the cops and for all the other sub-agencies that share that building in the back.
Correct, and that is how it is set up right now. It's
right,
not,
and I think that's a mistake. I think it's wrong for us to approach a project like this where we don't make it quite clear, quite easy for our residents to get into their precinct house. If we think there's a problem with the main entrance, let's fix it. I think that this project is, you know, it may have merit for the employees that use that rear entrance. I'm willing to trust that, but I don't think we should go forward with it without addressing the front door, which is what our neighbors get to see.
All right, let's see where that one goes.
May I say something? I'm sorry. This is Carlos Adrian with New Architects. I'm working with Kim. just in other projects, we had similar situations where to resolve them, we added an intercom in the main entrance or side entrance to call the police officers and meet whoever needs to use the side entrance and take them, escort them into the side yard or like driveway and take
That doesn't
them
make any sense.
That's one of the solutions I've seen in other precincts.
But under ADA, if you're gonna make a big change, you got to do it right.
Right.
The intercom is not right.
Yes, like Kim said, we just tasked with doing this by the NYPD. ADA does allow to have an intercom to ask for assistance. So we're just going by what we were tasked and by what the ADA is allowing us to do.
Exactly. Yeah. What we are proposing is within compliancy for the code. I can certainly understand what else you're expressing. And unfortunately, that's not something that we can really hit on at this. We aren't the right people for that conversation.
As members of the community board, I would say that you're right to the letter of the law, but certainly not to the spirit.
Judy Colon.
Hi there. It's kind of apropos because in new business, I did want to talk about a kind of accessibility for meetings, but you may not be the right people, but I totally agree, that it wasn't looked at to see if there could be a ramp on the side of the building that's on where the other grate was that could bring you up far enough to the level of the stairs at the main entrance. Coming in and seeing the desk sergeant is very difficult at this point because those stairs are kind of rough to navigate. So who would be the right person to address that? Because I agree with what the rest of the board has been saying is about an equivalent experience if it can be offered. And I don't think it doesn't sound like it was even explored.
Right.
Yeah, I can't speak to that at the role that we have been played in it. Any of the prior discussions or discovery I'm not aware of it, unfortunately. Adrian, I don't know what we would recommend as far as talking to the right people to discuss it, because I'm sure it's a much bigger conversation.
Yes, I mean, we'll bring it up to our clients in NYPD.
Why don't we do this? Do you have any immediate need that this cannot go over to the next meeting?
Asking us?
Chuck, I think Karen wanted to chime in.
Oh, I know, she's next. Karen?
Okay, sorry.
Karen, you're muted or not? You're muted. Good. Karen, you're on.
I'm one of those with disabled, and I have come with a walker. I drive through the back entrance to get into the police department, even if I'm making a donation of coats during the winter. I get a growly face from the police officers because I should not be driving down that alleyway behind the building. But I cannot get up the stairs, obviously. So I certainly appreciate any way that we can make the police department's offices more accessible.
Okay. Is there any objection from the committee to my laying this matter over to the next meeting with the request to the representatives of the department that they communicate with the 5L our concern as to why there has not been, or we have not received a report as to whether there has been the result of examination of a possible ramp in lieu of all this.
I think it's a good idea, Chuck.
It's not adequate. There are multiple steps there. It would have to be a very long and steep ramp.
Okay.
In my opinion.
All right, now let me just see if, is there anybody who has not spoken? I see a hand. Who is it, David? David, is your hand up? Okay, come on.
Amelia's also hand is up.
Okay, David.
No, it was just a thumbs up on your suggestion.
Okay, so who else is there?
Camellia.
Oh, yes, Camellia.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to highlight how to say the accessibility is a key thing, obviously. But I mean, these people were commissioned by PD to do the section of the project that they're presenting in front of us. So that's what they are limited to designing, and they designed and they present in front of us. It sounded to me like David's suggestion would be an amazing suggestion for a capital project for PD to consider in the future. But let's help them do what they come here to do. I mean, I'm supporting your decision and proposal to call them back, but I think that they will come back with exactly what they have today in front of us. So just wanted to add that.
I'm going to lay this over to the next meeting. Kira, let's also send a letter to the 50 and to the department to sign, making the point, all right?
Chuck?
As to why it was laid over. Okay.
And I think we should highlight the fact that we are very disappointed that it doesn't address at all access for members of the community.
Okay. Got it, Kira? Kira?
Got it.
Okay.
So
now.
just, sorry, Charles, really quickly, just to make sure I'm understanding the marching orders correctly. So at this point, we're not going to amend the letter that I had flashed earlier. Rather,
Correct.
we're going to have this meeting again. And the hope is that we would have more feedback from the NYPD at that time.
Correct.
Okay.
And just so you know, as of right now, the meeting, the next meeting will be scheduled for April 4th.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate what everyone said, and also you all understanding our position within the limited, you know, what we are able to do and where we have influence, of course, on this. We can certainly share your feedback with them. I think, Camellia, I appreciated what you said, because I do worry we're going to come back on the 4th and it's not going to be something that we are able to resolve. It's a bigger conversation, but certainly we will try our best to respond.
So perhaps, Chuck, Ms. Wood can bring someone from the NYPD or DCAS to speak
Would
as
you,
well.
Kira, would you please do this? Will you please extend an invitation to the captain and ask him that if he thinks there is somebody from the department's facilities program that ought to accompany him, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great. Someone that could speak more authoritatively on what they're able to do, just because our vision is so limited.
Okay.
Should we mention this tomorrow night when the captain is there?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Great idea.
All right.
I will also speak with the captain beforehand just to give him a heads up so we don't spend too much time on it at the 50th report.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Chuck, can I make one more
we
comment?
recognize your boundaries.
We have just two other quick things. The minutes of February, I assume, have been sent during the course of last week. Does anyone have any comments, objections, or the like?
Camellia has her hand up.
Yes, Camellia.
Yes, if I may, if you wouldn't mind either removing my name from the list of people that approved this or adding me as a abstention. This was approved in the very first minutes of the meeting based on a verbal resolution. I reviewed the recording and I was just in the process of logging in. I did not hear this being said, so I didn't vote on it explicitly. It was an implicit vote, but I think my surprise was fairly obvious next day at the full board meeting when I was surprised that this is being discussed, since I had attended a 9-hour hearing on it. And I also voted in abstention there. So if you wouldn't mind, whatever you consider appropriate, either removing my name from having approved this resolution or putting me as an abstention
Kira,
as you
put it
think.
down as an abstention, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, now, any new business? Any old business? Jody, is your hand up from before or now?
You're muted.
Jody, you're muted.
You're muted, Jody.
Oh, sorry. It's kind of both old and new. I just wanted to say how much I have enjoyed being able to attend the meetings over Zoom. As some of you know, I do have a disability that limits my ability to do in person. And so I just wanted to say, I'm going to speak tomorrow in the gallery session about an accessibility beyond wheelchair access for future meetings of hybrid possibilities. But in case I don't get my wish, I just wanted to say it's been so wonderful to be able to, again, participate at land use meetings every month instead of only when there's big hearings. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You are a real champion of the people of the community. Chantal? You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. I had emailed Kara about this a few weeks ago, and she mentioned she might put it on the agenda for tonight. It was regarding, there's actually 2 large building developments planned for Marble Hill. One of them by your dear friends at Timber Equities, who demolished Villa Rosa Bonheur quite infamously and supposedly didn't have proper permitting. They have filed demolition permits for 4 small 1910 era built homes in the historic Marble Hill neighborhood, as well as a brick building that's currently used as a church. So my concern is just keeping tabs on them and sort of making sure that they obey the proper, whatever, like lead abatement, asbestos abatement, et cetera. I'm not trying to stop the development, even though I'm not happy about it, because frankly, long-term, I think the circular area of Marble Hill should become a historic district, because it seems like this and another development that's happening on Terrace View Avenue, that's planned for Terrace View Avenue. It seems like these private equity guys finally have discovered Marble Hill, and that they're planning to, take out these historic homes and put up modern buildings, which I'm not happy about.
I'm trying to figure out what we can do here. Let me think about it. Maybe what we need to do is have a Marble Hill working group on planning, what it is that we want there, what it is we can do up there. It's a very important issue. You have a new council person who is clearly determined to do everything she can to watch the issues up there. So I think we owe it to her, to you, and to the community to do that. So let me do a little thinking upon that, all right?
Okay. And isn't there a member, I don't see him here tonight. Maybe
yes, there is.
Chris Calhoun, right?
Right.
Is that his name?
Yep.
I believe he lives in Marble Hill.
Yep.
And he would know exactly what I'm talking about.
Let me think upon it, and I'll get back to you. This would be a working group, I guess.
Okay,
right.
And just so you know, I've actually been in touch with the Historic Districts Council, and some of the folks there are very interested in Marble Hill. They're familiar with it, and they seem to be keen on working on getting it landmarked in the future. I
am quite certain that you are correct.
Thank you, sir.
Because you raised it in connection, and then your colleagues had to walk away from that issue. In the interim, I did do some checking. They are interested.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Yes. May I just say that, Chantal, you're welcome to reach out to me. I have actually been monitoring the other timber. I just had a chat with Jeff Torkin today, so I would be happy to share some of my tips and tricks on how to keep tabs on the development that is in progress. So Kira can give you my contact info if you would like.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'm not an expert on like building code violations. So I couldn't, as a layperson, necessarily know that they're violating stuff.
Yes,
Jody will find it for you.
Absolutely, you can. So, so just reach out to Kira, and she'll share my phone number and my email, and I'll give you a quick tutorial on what to look out for that they do quite often.
Okay, and may I just say one more thing? This other development that's planned for an empty lot, so there's no demolition going on, but there's an empty lot on Terrace View Avenue. Most of the roads in Marble Hill are like one-way narrow roads. And if we have two huge building projects going on simultaneously, I'm also concerned about not only the insane traffic and the beeping that's going to cause when people get angry that they're stuck in traffic, but also accessibility for emergency vehicles, you know, fire trucks and ambulances.
We raised that issue on the Terrace View project.
Oh, you did?
Board
Okay.
of Standards and Appeals did not give it much shrift.
Okay, so you've already reviewed the Terrace View.
Oh, yes.
Okay, but not the timber equity
That was,
one.
I think, perhaps the prime issue. We had photographs of cars parked on the sidewalk up and down the block.
Listen, people in Marble Hill double park every night. It's insane. And then they just wake up their neighbors by beeping incessantly until the neighbor comes out and moves their car. It drives me nuts, but it is what it is.
Thank you, Chantal. Who is user 2? User 2 has his or her
Yes,
hand.
Marie-Claude, local residents, Bailey Avenue. I just want to bring to your attention another demolition project in progress, the historic Lutheran Church and its 3 adjacent parish houses were bought in 2021, and they're being taken apart without any listed permits, without anything protecting the area. But just to bring it up, that this is Bailey Avenue and Summit Place.
Isn't this the one we've already referred to the building department?
Yes, it is.
Chuck.
Yes, it is.
Chuck, may I just, Marie, I actually just emailed you. The Department of Buildings has been out twice and they have not seen any work being done. So they want to know exactly from your end when you see them out there. Is it weekends? Is it at night? Is it weekdays? If you could just send me an idea of the typical work hours, and I'll send it over to DOB to get an inspector out there again.
Okay, I will right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will tell you just so that you know, I believe this is the one where I wrote to the commissioner and we got a person out there the next day or the day before or that same day.
You are correct, Chuck, but unfortunately no work was being done at that time. So,
but I want to say that there is a notice of a violation nailed at the church door, but this was yesterday morning when everybody was sleeping, Sunday morning, but I did take pictures and sent them on in a complaint. They were very quickly removing the covering of the roof, the asphalt, bagging them, and then the rain came and they disappeared. But there is already one citation on the door, which they're ignoring completely.
Well, the department's been following up. Congratulations to them and thank you.
we'll
In any
continue to
event,
follow
are there
up.
any other questions, comments on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Done. I thank you all for your courtesy and for tolerating me tonight. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.